Hey, Sunshine Duper how the heck are you? I'm probably not in this, magical jazz club where the instruments are playing by themselves. And I'm not sure why there's so many stand-up basses. Hey, I'm not questioning. I'm just curious more than anything. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, I want to do something different here. And like I said earlier, I was kind of doing things backwards because it would have made more sense to do the two cocktails I'm having now first. But I really wanted those whiskey cocktails. I really wanted that rye and that bourbon. But I have been really getting into martinis or various versions of lately. And I've been learning about spirits that or liqueurs, I guess, that I haven't heard of before or wasn't familiar with. So that's what this first cocktail is about, using products that I'm not familiar with and figuring out, where they belong. Oh, I forgot to do something. I just realized that. Shoot. It's getting ready to do that and blew it. I don't think it'll let me go back and do it now, but let's find out. Bear with me. I meant to do this before. Oh, I think it's too late to do it now. All right. It is. Well, let me do it. Well, darn. I meant to do this before I got started. Oh, wait. Maybe if I do that, will it let me? Oh, possible. Here we go. I am technologically challenged, folks, but here we go. Let's try something. Although I'm technically not drinking whiskey, I guess I'm going to send it to my whiskey groups anyway. And then we'll just let it fly. Anyways, how the heck are you? I am Tom. Uh, I got a lot of handles, man. But today I'm going to be the Martini Whisperer. I've really been really digging a classic martini, but also kind of variations of that still remain true to the classic martini. And what I mean by that is still retaining, in my opinion, that classic martini integrity without turning into a sweet drink. Because I'm not talking about espresso martinis or chocolate martinis or banana martinis or any kind of other nonsense that really aren't martinis. Because if it's not using gin, is it really just because you put it in the glass? Does it really make it a martini? So what I'm doing here is yes, I am using gin, and I am making a martini of sorts, but I'm not doing it in, let's say, the absolute most traditional way. How about that? Oops, didn't mean to do that. Oops, do it again. Hit the wrong, keep hitting the wrong button, man. Let's try this one more time, see if I can get to do what I want it to do. Okay. Anyways, we're just gonna keep going from here. So yeah, so the first one I've got going on As I just said earlier, if it's not gin, it's not a martini. Well, this one isn't technically a martini, I guess, but it's a martini in spirit. But at least it's a spirit forward cocktail and not some kind of sweet whatever the hell nonsense. So for this contest, we had to use for the contest we had to use products by a certain distributor or certain. It had to be tequila or something along those sorts. So I used a mezcal, but I didn't realize that their particular mezcal wasn't available at the stores in town. But I showed the person what I was looking for or what I needed, and she said this one was probably the closest to that of what they had. It's an 80 proof mezcal. Show that to you. So a few weeks back, I did a cocktail class, and I learned about products that I was not familiar with. One of them being this very interesting herbal product, Suze. I'd never even heard of it before. Known to be a little bit bitter. Well, we were trying to do something. I was looking for to do variations of a Negroni, if you will. So anyway, for this particular cocktail, I used 2 ounces of that mezcal. I used 3/4 ounce of the Suze here. And then to enhance, to further enhance and confuse, another product that that cocktail class I used for the very first time is the Blanc vermouth. This the Dolan Blanc. So let me show you that. That's not. It's different than a dry vermouth. I did not know that. I didn't know that, man. What do I know? Anyways, so that's why I got this very interesting color in this whatever the hell it is. I feel like I'm getting away with calling it a martini one. Well, it is in the martini glass, as I said earlier. But again, it is a spirit forward cocktail. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not turning it into something it's not, which is why I have an issue with like espresso or chocolate martinis, because those are for people that really don't like alcohol. They just want something that tastes good that maybe fits that moment. So I wanted to see if I could take that in a different way, right? So I had to do this kind of crazy cocktail for this contest using the mezcal. But since I had these other products, I wanted to see if I could really make an honest to goodness, spirit forward cocktail. I think this is a nice version of a martini because it captures the spirit of the martini, in my opinion. There's mezcal is nice. It's just a little smoky. And again, you got that nice herbal nature of that Suze, that little bit of bitterness, and the Blanc Vermouth has that little bit of sweetness that kind of balances everything out. Now to be quite frank, I don't know that I can make a cocktail like this fly with anybody under 40. Because it's just a different time now than it was back back in my time when we were using the abacus and you use stone and anyways, hammer and stone, a chisel and stone, I guess. I don't think there's a lot of younger drinkers looking for spirit forward cocktails, which is why I don't think you see a lot of younger bartenders specializing in those things. They know how to do them, but their specialties are always those more complicated drinks. Ugh. I did get an interesting compliment. I did say the folks that liked my drink always said the same thing. It was the only spirit forward cocktail in the competition of nine. There was one, and it was the old guy. Of course it was. But again, as I said earlier, I admired what those folks were doing because a lot of them were using ingredients and methods that I would have never employed or even thought of. But I haven't drank mezcal in a long time. I didn't feel like I had a need for it because one of the worst hangovers of my life is from Cuervo Gold. I know it's not quite the same thing, but any talk of anything in the realm of tequila brings back those horrible memories. But anyway, but yeah. So now that I've got familiar with that flavor again, I want to think of other things to do with it other than to bury it in 100 other ingredients. I was starting to tell a story, then I kind of got sidetracked, or I sidetracked myself basically. But yeah, I had an interesting comment, or I took it as a compliment. I'm not exactly sure he meant it that way from one of the judges. So the contest of the one particular cocktail was blind, so they didn't know who made that originally. But then later there's this as part of your score, I guess. You've got to they give you the name of a cocktail and where it's from, and you've got to recreate that cocktail. Well, I've never heard of the cocktail and I've never gone to the place where it came from, but I'm guessing all those other younger folks really knew what they were doing. I had no clue. So I was kind of guessing on ingredients. They had both tequila and mezcal. It never crossed my mind that the actual cocktail used both of them, but it does. So I just thought they would put extra ingredients out there for. So anyway, long story short, I only used mezcal. They had two sweeteners out there: a barrel aged maple syrup, Whistle Pig, and simple syrup. Again, it never would have crossed my mind that they'd use two sweeteners, but the actual cocktail used two sweeteners, but it did. Are you starting to go pick up what I'm putting down? Yeah. So, nevertheless, and there were some cherry bitters, and there was an orange, and there was no knife to cut anything. So, anyway, we put together these guys. You got to make two of them, and they all split them up there, I guess. The one judge came to me after the competition was over. He says, "Tom, I give you high marks for technique." But he said, however, when I was watching you, I didn't think you knew what you were doing. Everything seemed kind of confused. But then once I tasted your cocktail, I thought, oh, he does get it. So I am taking that as a compliment since he said he gave me high marks. I'm just going to have to take his word for it. And in all honesty, I have no idea what he's referring to. Other than I do build a cocktail different than a lot of what I've seen younger bartenders do. Some of it is instinct on my part, or just the way I kind of make cocktails the way I make food. I do like to cook, and a lot of it is if you've got these ingredients, you don't always toss all of them in the bowl at the same time. You've got to slowly add certain things, put everything in the right order. Well, I was talking to my boss about that today, and he kind of asked what I meant. So when you're brewing, it does make a difference when you add certain things, right? It's oh, okay. Now that you put it that way, I get it. So there, but yeah, I like to build a cocktail a very specific way. So when I was putting it together, I kind of like I get the ingredients together, but then I kind of like the layer. But I'll be honest, I had no idea what that cocktail was. It was some sort of old fashioned, which you would think I'd know, but it was using tequila and mezcal as a base spirit. It was using both maple syrup or barrel aged maple. and a simple syrup. I would never thought a cocktail would use, two spirits and two sweeteners. So I definitely didn't put it together that way. I use just the mezcal because if I'm making a Manhattan, or I'm not a Manhattan, but an old fashioned, I want you to taste whatever I'm putting in there. And again, I'm a whiskey guy, so I use the mezcal because I wanted the smoke. Wanted you to feel that smoky notes. I used the maple syrup. Of course I did. Of course, I used the barrel aged maple syrup to cherry bitters, and then I did a rustic orange peel garnish because everything I do is rustic, and that was kind of the. Again, I feel like that whole competition was one of these things is not like the other. Which one of these things doesn't belong? Everybody's making these pretty perfect cocktails. Mine is intentionally kind of awkward looking, if you will. And as I say, I like to use the word rustic. It's rustic, man. It looks good. It's it's kind of cute in an ugly sort of way. But although I know it was blind, I knew at least two of those judges. As soon as my cocktail went back, they knew exactly who made that because they knew all the other contestants. That they knew there was no way. And I'm guessing, and I'm being rather conservative. I'm kind of guessing that although they didn't know me, they knew it wasn't anybody. Yeah. Um, would I do something like that again? That's very interesting. I guess if it ever came up, I might. Because it did take me way the hell out of my comfort zone. Because of doing that competition, I'm thinking about mezcal in a quite different way. Because I would have never thought to do a mezcal martini, especially with Suze and Blanc Vermouth, had it not been for a cocktail class and a competition. But now I'm thinking, because as soon as I tasted that mezcal, I'm thinking it would work well with this. So this is a nice, not a martini, if you will, a nice version of. We got a rain. I was supposed to come in at 3. Well, when you read the thing earlier, you said supposed to come in at 3 because I said about the time I go to work. They said earlier we're going to get rain at 3. Here we are, almost midnight. Here it comes. Okay. Anyways, I digress. I'm going to finish this off. I got one more cocktail to share with you. Oh, I got to tell you, I like this a lot more than I thought. I was kind of curious. I wasn't sure how these components would come together, and again, I was trying to build just kind of a different version of right. I wanted to say true to the idea of a martini, right, without getting too crazy. So again, you want this very chilled. You want to taste the spirit, and if you're using anything additional, you want it to just kind of to elevate the spirit and not to hide the spirit. I feel like this does that. So anyway, I'll be right back. All right, folks. I apologize for leaving you a little longer than I. All right, let me put this off to the side here. So the second martini, if you will, is actually a martini. So what I decided to do with this one was to stay a little bit truer to the style, but still take a few liberties. So I'm using the Empress Cucumber Lemon Gin, which is at 85 proof. It's a very interesting gin. So what I did with that is when I was chilling it, I added some fresh dill in the shaker. So I've got the gin, I've got the dill, but I also add, so I've had these lemon twist olives. So I'm a dirty martini guy. But the lemon twist olives are a little bit different in the fact that the brine it is in dry vermouth. So it's kind of dirty-ish, right? It's got the dirty, but it's also got some of the vermouth as well. But then when I shook it, wanted to. You didn't shake it, Tom. No, I stirred it. But when I chilled it good, I wanted to have the dill in there to impart some flavor. But I also wanted to put some dill in there as part of the garnish along with the olives. And that is nice. That is very true to a martini, but still, in my opinion, now gave it a little elegance. What do you know about elegance? Not a damn thing, but it seemed elegant to me, didn't it? Hmm. I'm going to set that down for just a second. Just realized I forgot to do something earlier. I wanted to make sure I did set this up right over here, as a matter of fact. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, no. All right. Let me set that down again and pick up the martini, if you will, as we just crossed over into Wednesday. Got home early, so I thought I'd get an earlier start, but something just kept dragging. Some shit just kept happening, man. I like these lemon twist olives. I don't eat them in all honesty. I do eat olives, but these particular ones I don't eat a lot of. But I do like what they add to this particular martini. Because of the vermouth, the lemon. It really, again, I feel like it makes it a little bit more elegant, and then adding that dill into the mix. Now, I had to buy some vodka or gin and then kind of infuse it with that extra dill. I just didn't want that much. I feel like once I put it in there and stirred and then added the garnish, I mean, I'm tasting a lot of dill now, and it wasn't in there a long time. I don't know if you need to really infuse dill in anything. Just a little bit, you're going to get it. Oh, that's just a nice, refreshing drink. Probably should have started with these and then went to the whiskey, but I was just feeling that whiskey early on. So again, we talked about, or talked about with you. Um, I think you feel things at different times. For me, it took me a long time to even think about wanting a martini. And when I was in my 20s, even into my 30s, I didn't really care for gin. So if I was having a martini, it was a vodka martini. It's only been over the last, I don't know, 2 to 5 years maybe that I've really been making an effort to understand gin. If I'm not going to like it, I was trying to understand it. And what I found is I really enjoy a lot of small distillery craft gin. I haven't been really impressed by a lot of major stuff except for this Empress here. And even I mean, they've been around for a while. It's not brand new, but I'm not a gin guy, so I haven't been perusing the gin aisles. I only became familiar with it because of the cocktail class I took a few weeks back. So I'm gonna have to keep doing that to keep learning if I want to expand my craft. But it was interesting. I did have fun eventually. Right? Once the terrifying went away, it's interesting the way it was set up. You have to get there way early, and you can't really leave. I guess you technically can, but uh, I was afraid to because I didn't know what the hell was going on. To be honest with you, there was a table set up out back for the bartenders to sit down and relax and talk to each other. I think that's where we all kind of got to know each other, most of us anyway. Not everybody. There were a couple bartenders that kind of stayed to themselves, but it was interesting getting to know some of the folks before the contest started. But quite frankly, after that last competition, when we were there just handing out samples of our original cocktail and whatever was going to happen was going to happen, right? All the judging was over and nothing else mattered, right? At that point, we were all just having a good time. Right? We're just relaxing, talking to each other. But again, even then, I found it interesting that almost all of the bartenders there seemed to be a lot of camaraderie, right? Even with me, the old guy, all of them wanted to make sure, hey Tom, you need to try this, have this. This is my cocktail. This is my cocktail. But there was let's just say not everybody wanted to be friends with everybody. But I will tell you there's a few of those bartenders that I admired a lot for a lot of different reasons. For a lot of things they've overcome, for the cocktails that they came up with, the techniques that they know at their young age, and for some of them, and maybe it is their calling, and they're just going to take it to a whole other level. Be that one guy we see on TV or something else at some point. Me, I just hope I'm that old guy that one of them can tell a story. Well, there was this one old guy. I just want to be part of one story. There was this old guy who had a little bit of wisdom. He was a little odd, I ain't gonna lie. But he made me think about things a little bit different. I just want to be part of that one story of the one guy that becomes famous. That's all. anyways, I digress. I'm going to put my olives off to the side here as I finish this martini off. That I need to get a cucumber. I keep wanting to get a cucumber with this cucumber lemon, which is why I bought those lemon twist martinis. To be honest with you, specifically for this gin. But I haven't had a chance to go grab a cucumber. I need to go do a little cucumber fancy thing in there as a garnish. Just keep it simple. Just the gin, little lemon juice, cucumber, nothing else. That the that Empress stuff is no joke, though, man. But also for me, being a whiskey guy, I've always been a whiskey. I've never been into, you know, mezcal, gin, and now I'm finding an interest in all of these things. Right, there was a time where it would always be that I would want something with whiskey. I'd want that Manhattan or an old fashioned. I'm thinking, damn, it's hot. A martini sounds, and not just I want an actual frickin' martini. This is a nice. The lemon cucumber is just a nice, refreshing gin. Anyways, I digress. I am Tom, the Martini Whisperer tonight. Martini evangelist, prolific martini drinker, purveyor of wisdom, and all around good guy. Sláinte. Thanks for tuning in and listening to me tonight. Yeah, it was interesting. Again, I'm embracing I'm embracing my bartender years because right now I'm at the perfect place for me to really hone what I want to do. I don't have a lot of abilities that some of these younger guys have, and that's not going to get better for me, right? They're doing all this fancy shaking. And I walked over to the one guy and said, "Okay, have you ever seen Tombstone?" He looked at me like, "There's a scene of Tombstone where the Johnny Ringo character is trying to intimidate the Doc Holliday character. So there's this really fancy thing with the with his gun, and then Doc Holliday just picks up a tin can and basically does the same thing. So I walked over to this kid and said, "There's no way I could do all this shit." And I just took it. Anyway, yeah, I guess you had to be there. But anyways, I'm once again Tom the Martini Whisperer. We're just gonna skip to the S all around good guy and